Breast cancer is the commonest cancer that affects women. 1 in 7 women will be affected by breast cancer in their lifetime. In this video, we'll be hearing real-life stories from those affected by breast cancer.
What prompted me to get checked was an invitation from the National Screening Programme for a mammogram.
When I was washing myself and I found a golf-sized lump.
I found a lump.
I was invited for a routine mammogram.
I found a lump.
Checked my breasts and I found that the texture of my breast had changed.
My mum was diagnosed with breast cancer 14 years ago. I decided to ask my GP for a referral to start routine breast surveillance.
I found a lump.
I had a fibroadenoma in my right breast a couple of years ago. I've since had small kids, found that my breast had changed a little bit and wanted to have my breast checked.
I found a lump. I found a very hard pea-sized lump in my right breast.
My prompt for being checked out was finding a sweet-sized lump at the top of my left breast.
I was actually prompted to go for a routine mammogram by my menopause specialist.
I was called up for my second routine mammogram at the age of 54.
So far, the most difficult has been the mastectomy and the reconstruction. I am going to go on to have some hormonal treatment and some chemotherapy treatment.
I had docetaxel or daxitoxel, and I found the side effects very, very challenging indeed. You name it, I had it, and I'm still battling with peripheral neuropathy today.
The treatments I received was chemotherapy, a mastectomy, and reconstruction. And what I found most challenging was the chemotherapy.
The things I found the most difficult was the steroids. When I had my primary, they actually, I think they sent me a bit mad.
The most challenging time for me was definitely the effects of the EC chemotherapy, the 4 rounds I had.
The most challenging part for me about all this was finding out enough information about lobular breast cancer.
Discovering that I needed to have a mastectomy and reconstruction was really frightening. But the biggest challenge for me was dealing with all of this emotionally.
I did find chemotherapy the most difficult out of all of the treatments because that's when I didn't recognise myself as much and I didn't like how I felt in myself, just being really fatigued and sick all the time.
The part that I found most challenging about the treatment was going from being a physiotherapist in a hospital treating patients to becoming a patient myself overnight.
I did think that the radiotherapy was going to be a walk in the park, but actually you are quite exhausted when you're going through it.
I think for me the most challenging was actually the mastectomy. It was emotionally challenging rather than physically challenging.
The thing that I found most challenging was actually after the treatments were finished, because you feel quite supportive. I don't know if supported is the right word, but you know, there's a lot of appointments and people are interested and people are checking up on you. And then I found after the treatment had finished, there really wasn't that kind of network anymore, and I felt kind of frightened that it would reoccur, frightened that it would spread.
I also have been put on tamoxifen for 5 years, and that's probably the hardest thing at the moment, is actually dealing with the side effects of the tamoxifen. I think the way that I got through it was I was really positive from the beginning. I knew that it was a good prognosis. I surrounded myself with people that were, sort of positive. If they weren't positive, I encouraged them to be positive. I felt very much that it was something that I needed to get through, but that I would be okay afterwards.
I kept my head down. I didn't really join any support groups or anything. I watched a lot of Netflix, so I'm the type of person that kind of just gets through it. And I think it was afterwards, again after treatment, that's when I started speaking to people, reaching out to support groups, finding people on the internet, joining Facebook groups, that type of thing, and I found that very helpful.
The strategies that were useful for me was actually reading, if you can, anything scientifically peer-reviewed about the type of breast cancer you've got.
One thing that have been said to me at the very start by somebody who had gone through a mastectomy as well. They said, you know, at the end of the day, your breast tried to kill you, so it has to go. And it's something that I continuously said to myself over and over, and particularly on the morning of my surgery, and just reminding myself that, you know, if it doesn't go, what's going to happen to me? So it had to go. I have 2 small kids and I have to be here for them, so I found that really useful. I also found useful, someone had also said to me, and although I didn't take their advice at the time, now I can see why, was just to take every day as it comes and every appointment as it comes, because, you know, there's a plan, there's various different staging, different tests that have to be done, biopsy scans, and as each and one of those are done and the whole diagnosis unravels, the process might change, or the outcome might change, your surgery might change. So just try and take every appointment as it comes, and just not get too fixated on the end goal, just day by day.
Not looking too far into the future, dealing with the here and now, the day to day, and not the what ifs of the future.
I've found that connecting with other young women with a breast cancer diagnosis who are treated by the same or similar medical team as me to be really helpful. When I was first diagnosed, I had regular contact with my breast care nurse, who was always there to provide reassurance and ask any questions that I had. Over the last 2 years, I've also had regular sessions with my psychologist, and I've found that to be really useful.
Joining my local Maggie Centre, where I had therapy groups, but that was only really after treatment. I can say I'm cancer free, but it's the mental impacts afterwards and trying to find myself again after a cancer diagnosis.
The strategy I've used really is acceptance of the situation, and just taking each day as it comes, when moving one foot in front of the other. If one day's a bad day, I just move on to the next.
I have a very good positive mental attitude, which has seen me through many, many different problems in my life, and I've pulled on it again to get me through this. And then I think meeting so many people who has got the same diagnosis as myself, breast cancer.
Just telling myself whenever I had a bad day that tomorrow's a new day and it will be better than today. And as I got further on into my treatment and after it actually, I enjoyed writing, I grew flowers, and exercise was one of the really big coping strategies that I discovered.
My team says that because I'm actually really positive, that's really helped my positive outcome.
Things like getting out for a daily walk, yoga and meditation, and CBT.
The best way for me to get through treatment would be to just try and have as much fun as I could. So I decided I was going to get a pink wig because there was no point trying to replicate my brunette hair. Everyone knew that I had cancer and I was going to lose my hair. So why not get a pink wig and do something fun that I would never have done before. So yeah, I just tried to find a little silver lining wherever it was.
I never want to go back to my pre-cancer life now. I have lost 17 kilos. I have lots of new interests, including hair, makeup, clothes and exercise, and I'm having lots of fun doing lots of new things. I have met some really great new friends also going through breast cancer diagnosis, and they have helped me enormously along the way. I really actually like myself a lot more than I have ever done before.
I got to be the first Welsh voice for Cancer Research UK for the Race for Life events, as well as on the Instagram community. I met lots of other girls the same age as me, because I'm 27 now, but I found it very difficult going through treatment, and there was no one my age locally, but I found a huge group of ladies online who were going through the same thing as me, so we would share tips, so it helped me feel less alone.
Probably for me, the most positive outcome is finding a real positive feeling of being so glad to be alive, and long may that continue.
I discovered yoga, and yoga really helped me to rehabilitate after the aftermath of breast cancer, when it all really hits you. And I'm now a trained yoga for breast cancer teacher. I also then went on to have a third child after my diagnosis of breast cancer. cancer.
I have a healthier work-life balance. I've reduced my hours. And I try to live life to the full. I don't look back, and I try not to look too far forward.
I would say I'm probably a better human being. I think I am more chilled, I'm kinder, I'm trying to give of myself, I'm trying to give back, and I'm not actually frightened of anything anymore. Crazily, maybe spiders still. But most things I feel are just new challenges, and I'm willing to take on the world probably. So I would say there are positives, even when you feel you're at your darkest moments. Don't give up.
I'm here and I'm alive and kicking and doing well 4 weeks in post my surgery. And yeah, just happy that things were found so early and that treatment could take place so early.
I try to, find joy in every day. I've made a massive amount of connections through breast cancer, and I've also had bowel cancer. So in both of those worlds, I find a lot of support through people I've met, and some of the charities like Future Dreams in London have been brilliant.
There have been some things that have come out of it. Prior to being diagnosed, I was working 5 days a week, about a 60-hour week in the medical profession, and actually just didn't have time for anything. I think the illness sort of prompted me to take a complete stop. I spent time with my mum that I hadn't spent time with her like that for years, just simply going shopping. I stayed there for 2 weeks after the operation to recuperate, and it sort of taught me a lot about, really that the most important thing is actually just the people around you. Nothing else matters, it's just the people around you.
It's discovering how strong I am, how empowered I am, how I can tell people in authority what I want, and also the positive effects on me and others of advocacy and representation of women who have one breast or no breast.
I'm still here, which is fantastic. I'm full of gratitude and onwards and upwards.
One of the most unexpected outcomes of this diagnosis was actually meeting a load of other women on social media that had lobular breast cancer and couldn't find any information about it and were confused about the outcomes, the treatments and stuff like that. So we got together and actually formed a charity called Lobular Breast Cancer UK to help other women find the information they're looking for. So that was a really unexpected outcome. There's a great wealth of support in social media out there, just as long as you're not taking medical advice. Linking Lobular Ladies is also another great Facebook group to join when you need support and help looking for advice.
I hope this collection of positive experiences from something so life-changing can help you find your own positivity. I would like to thank all the women who submitted their answers to raise awareness about breast cancer.